I landed in Canada, a refugee from unemployment and want in England, with the youthful, naive idea of finding work and prosperity in the new country. It soon became apparent that here also there were no jobs, and for a couple of days I hung around the CPR depot, dozing on benches.
Canada will become Ronald Liversedge's home, but for the next 10 years he will have no fixed address.
I'm going down the road feeling bad. I'm going down the road feeling bad. I'm going down the road feeling bad, Lord, Lord, and I ain't going to be treated this way.
I learned of the life of the transient unemployed. I learned of freight riding, of being hounded by police from town to town.
My kids need 3 square meals a day, Lord, Lord, and I ain't gonna be treated this way.
We were not professional hobos, but unemployed men, many recent immigrants, the beginning of a mighty army.
Liversedge will become a foot soldier in that army. The suffering he sees in Canada will lead him and many others to radical solutions. Canada is between 2 wars, but it is not at peace. There are personal tragedies on every corner. Riots in the street. Revolution in the air. The old guard has no solutions, but the extremists have many. The country is in chaos. Poets, painters, farmers, and factory girls. The depression will remain with them all, forever. Irene Duhamel's family is not well off, but she and her 14 brothers and sisters know that if they work hard, their fortunes will soon change.
I slept with 2 sisters and one of the babies in the same bed. We slept across the bed so there would be more room. There were so many of us that the bed was warm when those who worked nights took over from those who worked days.
It is Wednesday afternoon, and Irene Duhamel is on her way to class. She will spend her last few moments as a student in the principal's office.
I was surprised because I was summoned to go home. It was so I could go to work. I just thought, this isn't possible. It can't be true.
Irene Duhamel's father cobbled together the money to send his daughter to school by working double shifts at the local pulp mill. In the 1920s, 2/3 of the world's news was printed on Canadian paper. It was boom time. Canada's natural resources were in demand everywhere. In 1929, European currencies plummet. The U.S. stock market crashes, and the market for Canadian goods dries up. 1/3 of Quebec pulp workers lose their jobs, and Irene Duhamel must support her family.
I planned to be a nurse when I grew up. My best friend and I were going to enroll together. But now it was my turn to help out the younger kids in the family. There were 15 mouths to feed, and we needed my salary. My heart was heavy. I cried so many tears. I cried enough for the rest of my life.
Thousands of miles away, Canada's boom produced nearly half the wheat sold worldwide. And in Saskatchewan, a young newlywed prepares for a bountiful harvest.
I loved every minute, especially when I was allowed to haul the wheat to the elevator. It was worth working and waiting for all summer. And the order to Eaton's for clothing, well, that was the most exciting of all.
But Anne Bailey will go 10 years without a new dress. The price of wheat is sinking. It will go from $1 a bushel to 34 cents. Anne Bailey's husband has to leave her in order to feed the family.
I have the dubious honor of belonging to the 43% of farm wives who've kept things going while the boss was elsewhere, working for some cash to improve the farm.
The Depression has crippled their farm, but it is the drought that follows in 1930 that destroys it. Family by family, thousands of Canadians are being ruined by economic disaster. But the Prime Minister of Canada appears to be oblivious. William Lyon Mackenzie King flatly refuses to help provinces run by his opponents.
With respect to giving money to any Tory government in this country, with policies diametrically opposed to this government, I would not give them a 5-cent piece.
Voters find King's attitude so callous in the midst of a crisis that they replace him. The new Prime Minister, R.B. Bennett, is a tough-talking millionaire. With his business experience, he believes he can restore Canada's shattered economy.
The Conservative Party is going to find work for all who are willing to work, or perish in the attempt.
Why don't you work like the other men do? Well, how can I work when there's no work to do? Hallelujah, I'm a bum. Hallelujah, bum again. Hallelujah, give us a hand out to revive us again.
The Depression has spread to the cities, where young single men can no longer find jobs. Nearly 100,000 men jump aboard trains, crisscrossing the country in search of work. When they get off the trains, they are arrested for not having a job. The official term is vagrancy.
Springtime has come, I'm just out of jail. I ain't got no money, it's all gone for bail. Hallelujah, I'm a bum. Hallelujah, bum again. Hallelujah, give us a hand out to revive us again.
Ronald Liversedge has just served 30 days for vagrancy in a Sudbury jail. The scene at one filthy soup kitchen fuels his mounting sense of outrage.
The atmosphere was like that in a chilly, mouldy crypt. The tables were covered with ice and beans and pieces of wet bread. The meals were always the same. The exception was the shooting of a bear by a Sudbury businessman who gave the bear to the city, who then sent it to the soup kitchen, with the result that a few hundred men suffered violent diarrhea.
I went to a house, I asked for some bread. The lady said, "Scram, bum, the baker is dead." Hallelujah, I'm a bum. Hallelujah, bum again. Hallelujah, give us a hand out to revive us again.
James Gray has achieved the middle-class dream. By the time he is in his late teens, he has a wife, a daughter, and a brand new mini golf course, the latest fad. Until it goes bust.
My number came up and I was confronted with the ego-shattering discovery that there wasn't a single employer in all Winnipeg who would give me a job. It was my own fault. Couldn't feed my family.
Although 25% of the population is unemployed, R.B. Bennett is still talking like a businessman.
Never will I, or any government of which I am part, put a premium on idleness.
As the crisis hits the middle class, it takes a psychological toll. Though most people still have jobs, everyone is fearful, even R.B. Bennett. He agrees to hand the provinces $20 million for relief. Among the first Canadians to go on the dole is James Gray.
We received no cash. Vouchers covered food and fuel and rent. But we needed other things, many other things. Like tobacco and cigarette papers, toothpaste, razor blades, lipstick, face powder, the odd bottle of aspirin, streetcar fare. We could have cleaned our teeth with soap, but there was such a thing as morale, even for the destitute.
Their food ration runs out halfway through every month. James Gray stands in line to see the one doctor assigned to the 16,000 people on the dole in Winnipeg.
It must have been quite some time since he had encountered such a walking skeleton. I was 5 feet 11 inches tall and weighed 118 pounds with most of my clothes on. I got the bad news. The doctor was completely offhand about it.
James Gray is one of nearly 100,000 Canadians diagnosed with tuberculosis during the Depression. Canada is beginning her descent into chaos, and she need only look to her eastern shore to see how desperate things can become. In 1932, 10,000 rioters stormed the House of Assembly in the Dominion of Newfoundland. They are calling for the head of the Prime Minister, Richard Squires. He survives when a fledgling politician named Joey Smallwood dresses him in a monk's uniform and spirits him out of town. The island nation is desperately poor, yet their prime minister seems mysteriously wealthy. Newfoundland is now facing bankruptcy and default on millions of dollars of debt. Britain sends a commissioner to investigate.
There has been a terrible misgovernment. Worse, terrible immorality in the government. The people have been exploited. And yet they are a fine people, really. And if they get a decent government, they will do well. Though the place is an appalling mess.
Britain agrees to assume responsibility for Newfoundland's staggering debt, if Newfoundland agrees to Britain's terms. The country must return to the status of colony, run by an unelected committee appointed by Britain. With few options, the people of Newfoundland vote to end their independence. Canadians wonder if their own democracy will survive. Russia is half a world away. But Joseph Stalin is one of the most feared men in Canada. Canada's Prime Minister R.B. Bennett is terrified of communist revolution on Canadian soil.
We know that throughout Canada, this propaganda is being put forward by organizations from foreign lands that seek to destroy our institutions. And we ask that every man and woman put the iron heel of ruthlessness against a thing of that kind.
Bennett does not have to look very far to find evidence for his fears. The Times of London reports that Moscow has sent operatives to Canada to organize mine workers. And in Blairmore, Alberta, 200 miles south of Calgary, Canada gets its first communist town. The mayor is a businessman named Bill Knight.
Back in 1929, there were no Reds. Things were prosperous. Everyone was well fed. It is different today. You talk about communists. The communists in Canada were made by Bennett.
Bennett's chief military advisor, General Andrew McNaughton, warns him that the unemployed could launch a revolution on Canadian soil.
In the ragged platoons are the prospective members of what Marx called the Industrial Reserve Army, the stormtroopers of the revolution.
His solution? To warehouse at least 10,000 unemployed men, far from the cities where they are stirring up dissent. They will go to camps in the wilderness, under military authority. The men are paid 20 cents a day, about a tenth of what a working man makes for the same job. prevent even talk of communist revolution, Bennett enforces Section 98 of the Criminal Code, which allows the authorities to lock up dissidents. The Prime Minister believes that immigrants, especially those from Eastern Europe, are responsible for bringing communism to Canada.
We will take action as will free this country from those who have proven themselves unworthy of Canadian citizenship.
Foreign-born Canadians are forced from their homes by police, often in the middle of the night. Nearly 30,000 Canadians are deported without any right of appeal. Edward Reinkanen, born in Finland, deported in 1931 after attending a demonstration. Sophie Scheinen, born in Russia, involved in illegal assembly, deported November 1932. Hans Kist, born in Germany, married, labor organizer, deported in 1932, died after being tortured in a Nazi concentration camp. While Bennett is deporting suspected socialists from Canada, fascists are marching across Europe. But R.B. Bennett is not as concerned about the threat of Nazism. There is no move to curb the growing popularity of men like William Whittaker, the head of Winnipeg's Nazi Party. Joe Farr, leader of Ontario's fascists. Or Adrien Arcand, an unemployed journalist in Montreal who Hitler eventually appoints as his Canadian representative.
Jews are like cockroaches and bugs. Don't be fooled. There are many around. It is too bad we cannot exterminate them with insecticides.
Adrien Arcand's anti-Semitism does not disqualify him from working for the federal Tories. He is appointed to recruit new members for the party. Extremists are fighting for the souls of Canadians in the middle. But Bennett feels no threat from the fascists and believes he has suppressed the communists. He is unaware of the revolution being planned in the labor camps he has created. Ronald Liversedge came to Canada to seek his fortune, but ends up in a British Columbia work camp, plotting the downfall of the capitalist system.
We used the camps as schools. In those bunkhouses, there were more men reading Marx, Lenin and Stalin than there were reading girly magazines. The Tory government of R.B. Bennett had decided a role for the single unemployed. They were to be hidden away to become forgotten men, the forgotten generation. How naive of Mr. Bennett.
The army of the unemployed is mobilizing to attack R.B. Bennett and change the way Canada treats its poor.
Depuis que dans cette effrayante tête du gouvernement, on nous promet plus peu que de paix. Avec ça, on avance à bien nos députés sont assemblés afin de pouvoir discuter. Alors, au lieu de nous aider, ils ne font que se chamoyer. Mais dans tout ça, les plus affreux, ce sont les chefs qui malheureux. Pas d'argent pour les faire soigner, on finit par les enterrer.
The department store heir John David Eaton is one of the few who sees the bright side of the Depression.
Nobody thought about money in those days because they never saw any. You could take your girl to a supper dance at the hotel for $10, and that included the bottle and a room for you and your friends to drink it in. It was a good time for everybody. People learned what it was like to work.
"15-year-old Irene Duhamel is learning what it's like to work. She has a job in a factory that supplies the thread that sews the dresses sold by department stores like Eaton's.
Because I was small, I had to climb into the needles and go between the threads with a little brush to lift the cotton debris. My hands were full of blood. It got as hot as 105 degrees. The company hired a nurse to give us salt pills if we fainted.
With 1 million people ready to take their jobs, workers will risk their lives for a paycheck.
Because of the heat, many employees got sick, especially with tuberculosis. One of my friends got sick and died. After my friend died, the boss came to pay his respects. We were inside with the mother. When he came to the door, she screamed, "You killed my daughter! You killed my daughter!" We had to hold her back.
Workers like Duhamel find an unlikely champion. In 1934, Bennett's popular labor minister H.H. Stevens wages war on big business.
The law has holes big enough for millionaires to crawl through, and company laws that permit the fleecing of the public on one hand and the sweatshops on the other.
Under Stevens' direction, a panel of MPs interviews workers across the country. An Eaton sewer tells them she is paid 9.5 cents for a dress that Eaton sells for $1.69.
You were badgered, harassed, and worried. You were told to work and work and work so hard at these cheaper rates, and you were threatened if you didn't, you would be fired. You had no time to get up and have a drink of water. You just went on working.
Hit hard by bad press, Eaton's reforms its labor practices. But their suppliers continue as they always have, and life doesn't change one iota for Irene Duhamel. As if economic disaster is not enough, the prairie is on the verge of becoming a desert. Some children born during the drought will not see their first drop of rain until decades end. They eat what their parents can shoot when there is money for bullets. Thousands of farmers have no choice but to leave their homes behind. Much of the prairie is left abandoned. But Anne Bailey's family has worked the land for generations, and she has no plans to budge. Until the day she finds herself alone with her children and helpless against nature's wrath.
My son came running into the house, greatly excited. "Come quick, Mum," he shouted. "There's a big black cloud coming in the sky." He ran out ahead of me and pointed to the western sky where, sure enough, there was the blackest, most terrifying-looking cloud I have ever seen. It was moving very quickly, and the edge of it was rolling along. Panic rose in me. What should I do? Where should we go? The house was sure to be blown away, and our nearest neighbor was a mile away. At the rate the cloud was moving, I could never make it, as I would have to carry the baby. I shut the door tight, picked up the baby, and yelling at the other two to follow, I ran for the dugout barn. Already the shadow of the cloud was upon us. When it was light enough for me to see the forms of the cattle, I knew it was safe to open the door. So once again, I looked outside. Everything, land, air, sky, was a dull gray color. Our feet sank in sand, and we breathed and tasted sand. Such a mess.
Canadians are overwhelmed by forces beyond their control, and there is only one man to turn to.
Times is mighty hard. $1 a day is all they pay for work on the boulevard. Times is mighty hard. $1 a day is all they pay for work on the boulevard.
Murray Harbor, PEI. Dear Sir, I am writing to see if there is any help I could get, as I have a baby 13 days old that only weighs 1 pound, and I have to keep in cotton wool and olive oil. And I haven't the money to buy it. If there is any help I could get, there will be 2 votes for you next election.
Times is mighty hard. $1 a day is all they pay for work on the boulevard. Times is mighty hard. $1 a day is all they pay for work on the boulevard.
Murray Harbor, PEI. Dear Sir, I am writing to see if there is any help I could get, as I have a baby 13 days old that only weighs 1 pound, and I have to keep in cotton wool and olive oil. And I haven't the money to buy it. If there is any help I could get, there will be 2 votes for you next election. Hoping to hear from you soon. Yours truly, Mrs. Jack O'Hannon.
Her letter to the Prime Minister is Mrs. Jack O'Hannon's last hope. When he receives it, Bennett opens his wallet and sends the young mother $5, enough money to cover groceries for about a month. Bennett has failed to come up with any far-reaching policy to alleviate the suffering caused by the Depression. It seems all he can do is try to help those individuals who write to him. Alone in his 17-room suite at the Chateau Laurier Hotel in Ottawa, Bennett works through the night, trying to keep up with an endless chorus of heartbreak and despair.
Toronto. Dear Mr. Bennett, I believe you to be a good as well as a great man. Therefore, I am appealing to you to save my home. Picture yourself, through no fault of your own, homeless with sons willing but unable to provide for you. Please help me or tell me what I can do. Yours sincerely and hopefully, Laura Bates.
Dear Madam, I am certainly willing to help you, and if you will be good enough to let me know what company holds the mortgage on your home, I will look into the matter and see if anything can be done to straighten out your difficulties. Yours faithfully, R.B. Bennett.
Whedon Station, Quebec. Dear Sir, please excuse me for asking for your help, as I have no other option. I have been sick for 5 years. I have 6 young children. I am 42 years old, and I have no money, no more food, and we are without clothing, and all we can think about, my dear R.B. Bennett, is the cold winter ahead. Please believe me. I remain your devoted Philemon Patry.
Wellesley, Ontario. Dear Sir, 3 little baby boys were born to Mr. and Mrs. Samuels in our vicinity. Like many others, they have had some very bad luck. The parents are a very fine type, not the kind with a hand out for help. We hope you will feel toward these unfortunate people the way we do. Yours truly, Elizabeth Rattray.
Times is mighty hard.
Dear Mr. and Mrs. Samuels, I am enclosing herewith a $20 bill, which I trust may be of some little service to you during the Christmas season. I learned the other day that one of the triplet boys had passed away, and I extend to you my sincerest sympathy. With best wishes, believe me, I am, yours faithfully, R.B. Bennett.
Kingdom, Saskatchewan. Dear Prime Minister R.B. Bennett, it is with a very humble heart that I take the opportunity of writing this letter to ask you if you will please send for this underwear for my husband from the Eaton catalogue. I can manage, but my husband has arthritis very bad. Dear Sir, received your kind favor of underwear for my husband. We wish to thank you very much for it. We sure are thankful for your kindness, Mr. and
Dear
Mrs.
Mr. Bennett, I am a little boy, 8 years old, and I'm in grade 3 at school. I've wanted a little red wagon to hitch my dog to. Dear Mr. Bennett, thank you very much for the money. I'm going to get the wagon. Mama said I could.
Dear Mr. Bennett,
You're a very good friend. Maurice.
I can't spell very good to write. I think my woman is coming to see me this summer. I didn't see her for 4 years and I have no clothes. Have you some old clothes you could send me? And I will do a good turn for you. Yours truly, Mickey Rattel. Write soon.
Times is mighty hard. $1 a day is all they pay for work on the boulevard. Times is mighty hard. $1 a day is
This is from a mother whose son is wandering somewhere in Ontario trying vainly to get work. What are you going to do for these thousands of young men? There is lots of work to be done if you would only start them at it. You have never had to sleep out in the snow and rain or go days without food. Just stop and think of these hungry boys when you are at your next banquet. You have no children, so you cannot realize how parents feel with their sons wandering in this useless search for work. You have only a short time now to try and help these men, or it will be up to the other party to do it. A mother.